We've dealt with the whole generation of people that have run from church just because it's been scary, it's been weird, it's been like rules. And when you meet Jesus, we believe it's not you have to, it's a you get to. So rules are what you need if you don't really want to be involved with something. But if you have a relationship with God, I think that it should be freeing. It should lift your head, not put it down. It should add less weight to your life because Jesus said, I'm going to take the weight off of you. So our church is less about telling you what to do and trying to teach you how to think. And you got to come to these conclusions on your own.
A while ago, I did an absolutely legendary cancelling of Chris Pratt for his Christian conservatism. Now, something that came up in that video was the Hillsong Church and its offshoots and affiliates and things like that, which Chris Pratt has attended in the past. And obviously part of that drama with Elliot Page was that he was calling out Chris Pratt for attending this church because of its right-wing politics. So honestly, I've been thinking about this video for a while, and it just so happens there is actually a Discovery Plus documentary running right now about the Hillsong Church and how it is essentially like a cult in many ways for its followers, and just talking about all the scandals involved with them, including this person and this pastor who baptized Justin Bieber and is personally friends with a fair few celebrities, and he actually appeared on Logan Paul's podcast, and we're going to talk about that appearance a bit later. So what I wanted to do in this video was talk about the Chris Pratt drama and then talk about the people like involved in that drama and what's happened to them, because the people who were called out during that time have been actually mired in scandal very recently. And then I want to transition to Hillsong, Justin Bieber, and these other pastors involved in the church and talk about the scandals they have been involved in as well, before talking about the general culture at this church and how it has really like covered up loads of these scandals for the whole time it has been running. And of course, like I said, we are going to be looking at the Logan Paul podcast, because unlike a lot of these like more like culty American Christian churches and things like that, this one is trying to market itself as like more like woke. And you'll see the guy who we're going to talk about today, Carl Lentz, is a massive supporter of like Black Lives Matter, went on like these marches, talked about it in the Logan Paul podcast. So it's definitely on the surface not trying to appeal to like this more old school evangelical Christianity that is very infamous in America. So all of that today, but before we go any further, if you want to support my work no matter what happens, please consider becoming a patron. I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and you get my Nintendo Switch friend code, and you get access to the private patrons Discord server. I'm actually going to start doing community posts this month as well, so you guys can keep up to date with me kind of outside of YouTube, so stay tuned for those things. Also, I've been talking to YouTube support about this, but my subscribers have been like fluctuating in a way that's really not natural. Like I'll get like plus 100 subscribers for a video, only for at midnight that night to lose 100 in like 1 minute. YouTube says it's really weird, but just in case, check that you're subscribed if you're watching this from your recommended tab, in case YouTube, which they often do when they purge like bot subs, they actually purge people's legitimate subs. Also, to support the channel as well, please like the video, maybe leave a comment. Of course, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and on Instagram. Check out my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, and check out our community on my subreddit. So since we're going to be talking about Christianity and religion, I thought I'd first give my background on this stuff. So I was raised Catholic in England. I went to a Catholic primary school and I went to a Catholic secondary school. I was confirmed. I was even an altar server for way too many years, which I always really hated. I always really hated going to church, and as such, when I entered adulthood, I quickly became an atheist. I'm still very atheist. This channel started off more like left-leaning atheist, but I've kind of abandoned the atheist stuff, mainly because I think the main problem in the world right now is capitalism, and I think capitalism often really exacerbates the problems with organized religion in general. But of course, I'm still an atheist. I think religion is totally ridiculous, and specifically to Christianity, I'm reading a really good book about the medieval history of Europe right now. I've actually studied a lot of religious history in my degree and stuff, but something I think every Christian should go look up is the Council of Nicaea, and look up the Roman Emperor Constantine, who used Christianity for his own political agenda, and just how that if you are a Christian today, Constantine bribed bishops and bribed clergy to essentially throw out all elements of Christianity he didn't like. So every form of Christianity you believe in today has loads of stuff that the original Christians believed in, which you do not believe in right now. So even if God is real, even if Jesus was even similar to how he's depicted in the Bible, your form of Christianity was not believed by the original Christians. And also you have things like the split with the Orthodox Church. And the Orthodox Church actually spawns from like Constantinople, which Constantine set up as like the new head of the Roman Empire, which was heavily embedded in Christianity. I find religious history very fascinating, but if you only spend a tiny amount of time studying religious history and Christian history, it becomes apparent that Christianity, even if it was real to begin with, has been so warped and changed from its original form. What actually Christians believe today is nowhere close to what original Christians believed. So I always like to come at religion from a more historical angle rather than getting into like the theoretical things about the creator and about the universe and things like that. I don't think you need to do that, because when you actually look at religion as an institution, you see how a lot of these beliefs were designed by men thousands of years supposedly after the existence of Jesus Christ. But of course, I'm not naive. I know lots of people like Martin Luther King, Jimmy Carter have used their faith to pursue good things and actually use Jesus' example in the Bible to carry out good work. I'm not saying every Christian is a bad person. I know lots of Christians follow me. I'm just saying that like I think it's silly on like multiple fronts, and personally I find it very distasteful. And the American form of Christianity I found even worse. As someone who was raised Catholic and did go to church and things like that, like I do know the Bible and I know this religion, but the way Americans like Chris Pratt constantly bang on about literally talking to God like he's your best pal.
Good morning, everybody. I woke up, I went to bed last night really kind of upset and depressed, and I woke up feeling crappy, and I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to. I knew, though, that if I put on my Christian music playlist and I got out in the woods and ran, that I'd feel better, but I just didn't want to. And I did it anyways, and gosh, was I right. It felt amazing. I got out in the woods, got my blood pumping, and God is like, who sat down there right next to me? I say this as a guy who, I don't get emotional that often, but I actually got emotional out in the woods. I was out in the woods on this run, and I just felt like there was another in the fire standing next to me. And that was the song, actually. I think that's the lyric in the song. I don't know the name of the song. It's a really good one. But that moment, it really captured me. And so I just want to say all glory to God. And if you feel down today, maybe get an exercise and maybe listen to some good worship music or get the word in, because it really helped me this morning.
It's something I feel is very bizarre. Even as someone who was raised Christian, it feels like a very American thing. But on the subject of Chris Pratt, this is how I want to get into the video, because Chris Pratt has gone to like Hillsong churches in the past, and he was spotted going to them, and that's why he was essentially called out by Elliot Page. But a lot of them eventually migrated to affiliate churches because Hillsong was so, I guess, steeped in controversy. But just an article back in 2017, Chris Pratt is the latest celeb to join the star-studded Hillsong Church. Justin Bieber may have a new power at Bible study. According to Entertainment Tonight, Chris Pratt was spotted at the Los Angeles parish of Hillsong Church, a hotspot that's frequented by Bieber and Kourtney Kardashian. Pratt looked casual in a white fitted long sleeve shirt, jeans and brown boots, and smiled for cameras upon entering the church alongside a male friend. As for Bieber, he was wearing khaki shorts, Givenchy slide sandals, blue socks, and a matching blue t-shirt and hat. For those unfamiliar with the mega church that is Hillsong, it's an Australian import, and its pastor Carl Lentz is one of Bieber's closest confidants. In addition to having services in Australia, the church has expanded with branches in New York, Los Angeles, and London. Stars are flocking to the church, and its parishioners include a slew of reality stars such as the Kardashian-Jenner sisters, Nick Jonas, Bieber's ex Selena Gomez, and pro athletes like Kevin Durant. According to People, Pratt redefined his connection to Christianity after the birth of his son, Jack. He told the publication that he and Faris prayed extensively during Jack's time in the NICU since he was born 9 weeks premature. Back in 2016, Pratt helped his pals place a huge cross on their property in Texas, telling Stephen Colbert on The Late Show that it was what Jesus was doing 2,000 something years before on an Easter. Before Easter, he was carrying a cross up a hill. So from this article, you can see Chris Pratt has been affiliated with Hillsong, but there's another church which is also problematic, and is why Elliot Page called Chris Pratt out. So when actor Chris Pratt went on The Late Show a couple weeks ago, he casually name-dropped the Daniel fast, a 21-day diet based on the Bible, which he said he learnt about through his pastor at it says the Zoe Church. I've heard people say it's the Zoe Church rather than the E Church. So the Zoe Church. This comment about his church and the rest of the conversation about his faith got Elliot Page's attention. And then obviously you probably saw this tweet back in the day. It was a big controversy. Page tweeted back in the day, okay, but his church is infamously anti-LGBTQ, so maybe address that too. Elliot was referring to Hillsong, but I think this applies to Zoe as well. So Elliot also tweeted, if you're a famous actor and you belong to an organization that hates a certain group of people, don't be surprised if someone simply wonders why it's not addressed. Being anti-LGBTQ is wrong. There aren't two sides. The damage it causes is severe. So Chris Pratt got really defensive. You guys remember this, and he posted this on his Instagram, a picture of like a sheep, and he said, it has recently been suggested that I belong to a church which hates a certain group of people, infamously anti-LGBTQ. Nothing could be further from the truth. I go to a church that opens their doors to absolutely everyone. Despite what the Bible says about divorce, my church community was there for me every step of the way, never judging, just gracefully accompanying me on my walk. They helped me tremendously, offering love and support. It is what I have seen them do for others on countless occasions, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender. My faith is important to me, but no church defines me or my life, and I am not a spokesperson for any church or any group of people. My values define who I am. We need less hate in the world, not more. I am a man who believes that everyone is entitled to love who they want, free from the judgment of their fellow man. Jesus said, I give you a new command, love one another. This is what guides me in my life. He is a God of love, acceptance, and forgiveness. Hate has no place in my or this world. And Elliot responded, if LGBTQ plus people are expressing their pain, their trauma and experiences, maybe just try and listen. Open your heart, stop being defensive, and have compassion. It's a beautiful and life-changing feeling. Empathy, much love truly to all. So I think Elliot was referring to Hillsong, and we're going to get into their controversy with this stuff, but apparently Zoe has this as well. So when Page called out Pratt for supporting Zoe, it brought several concerns about the church's stances on these issues to the forefront. In the past, Chad Veach, one of its founders, has been cagey about their political views, telling the New York Times that he's a Bible guy and saying maybe just what we grew up in, it's like you don't bring politics into church. We're here to preach good news. We're here to bring hope to humanity. We're here to talk about God. That is not the place for a political agenda. When it comes to lifestyle stuff, Veach told the Christian Post in a 2014 interview that he lets Jesus deal with it. You might recall that Hillsong's leader, Brian Houston, infamously said, we do not affirm a gay lifestyle, so we're going to get into that next. However, in 2017, Veach served as the executive producer for a film about people who had struggled with sexual brokenness, which included being gay as well. So moving on to Brian Houston at the Hillsong Church, and this is what most people thought Elliot Page was referring to. So obviously Pratt has attended this church in the past along with Bieber. In a 2015 blog post titled Do I Love Gay People, Brian Houston, the founder and senior pastor of Hillsong in Australia, wrote, Hillsong Church welcomes all people but does not affirm all lifestyles. Put clearly, we do not affirm a gay lifestyle, and because of this, we do not knowingly have actively gay people in positions of leadership. So in the blog post, he elaborates further. So if you are gay, are you welcome at Hillsong Church? Of course, you are welcome to attend worship with us and participate as a congregation member with the assurances that you are personally included and accepted within our community. But this is where it gets vexing. Can you take an active leadership role? No, this won't make everyone happy, and to some, this stance may even be seen as hypocritical. We are a gay welcoming church, but we are not a church that affirms a gay lifestyle. I care about people, and yes, I do have gay friends. Jesus had many friends that angered the religious and brought him condemnation from many. He endorsed a humble sinner and condemned a self-righteous Pharisee. He would be the same if his time on earth as a man was in our generation, confronted with the social issues we face and we are forced to address today. So I love how Chris Pratt loves to compare them accepting him as a divorced man is the same as them accepting gay people in positions of leadership, because that's the same, isn't it? Chris Pratt, this world famous celebrity who's a divorced man, being welcomed into a church that draws a lot of celebrity, which is probably helpful for their propaganda and indoctrinating more people and spreading their following. Of course they're going to accept you, Chris Pratt, and they won't care. They probably wouldn't actually care if you were gay either, because they just want you to gain clout, and that's what these churches are for. Of course, churches in America have a massive tax exempt status as well, and you can become very, very wealthy from being parts of these churches. Of course, these people don't care what Chris Pratt has done in the past. They don't care about the sins he's committed, because they're going to accept him to make themselves more popular. And it happens that Chris Pratt is also right-wing conservative. I'm not sure straight white male conservative celebrity man is really going to be that controversial just because he's divorced. So we're going to come back to Houston in a sec because he has had more scandals since then. But just another controversy they've been involved with, and I want to talk about it. Gay ex-Hillsong leader speaks about experience with their unclear policy. So last month, Brian Houston, the senior pastor of the Hillsong Church, issued a statement stating that Hillsong loves all people regardless of identity. It was a response to recent media scrutiny of the church's LGBTQ policies. Many took notice of the misleading nature of Houston's statement, including John Canfield, and the statement also says, "I wish the correct reports at Hillsong Church has an openly gay couple directing a choir at our New York City campus. Hillsong's position on being gay and gay marriage has not changed and is consistent with scripture. As I have stated previously, I believe the writings of Paul are clear on this subject. Several months ago, when one of our choir directors made an unexpected public statement regarding his engagement to a man who sometimes sang in the choir, it was a complete surprise to us as well. It is my understanding that they have not been involved in an active leadership or ministry role since. That said, we still love them and acknowledge that they, like all of us, are on a journey, and our role as a church is to assist them on this journey with grace and compassion." So Canfield and his boyfriend Reed Kelly made national news in 2015 when they were forced to step down as the choir director for Hillsong's NYC's worship team after appearing on a national television show, Survivor, in which he stated he was a gay Christian who attended Hillsong. After stepping down, Canfield served as an offstage vocal coach. When Canfield read Houston's statement, which I read you, he took to Twitter and he said, "Hillsong has every right to believe what they want, but when they confuse their audience with general inclusive statements like the one given here, it does more harm than good. At Hillsong truly loves people, I believe that wholeheartedly, but by not being clear about their beliefs on being gay, it ends up hurting the same people they claim and are trying to love." Although Canfield has told his story before to a few outlets, we wanted to hear his story from the perspective of clarity. Our goal as an organization is to promote clarity of policy in all churches, so we were interested in finding out if Hillsong's NYC's leadership was clear with Canfield about their policy. So just a quick interview of him, which is interesting. When and how did you become aware of the restrictions? The restrictions started when a television show I was on began airing, talking about Survivor. I was vocal about being a gay Christian at Hillsong. After the show began airing, some article came out saying that the Hillsong Church had a gay choir leader, which Brian Houston wrote that response to, saying it wasn't true. Unfortunately, he forgot to check with the leadership of the NYC branch, who knew I was gay and in a committed relationship. Houston made me out to be a liar when in fact he had no idea of my situation. It was then that I was pulled from platform ministry and I was told that I could be an offstage vocal coach for the team. No one ever explained why they were doing anything, things just happened. After I stepped down and was serving as an offstage vocal coach, the lead pastor of Hillsong New York told me that he believed that being gay was a sin, but that was the only thing that was said to me. He is a friend, but I do feel that he needs to be clear with his church as to what LGBTQ folks can and cannot do when serving at the church. There are many LGBTQ people who serve as hosts in the choir, but apparently you can't lead worship, lead choir, or be in a frontline vocalist role if you are openly gay. So a running theme with the Hillsong Church is they like to have their cake and eat it too, in the sense that they paint a picture to the world. They are like really woke, like I said, like they accept gay people and they support Black Lives Matter and progressive social causes, but then they're trying to reconcile with the fact that they are Christian and there is a mainstream Christian view that this stuff is a sin. And it's pretty crazy to see in practice, they will literally take action against you just for being gay. And that's like the hypocrisy of them, that they'll accept you in the first place, they'll allow you in the church, allow you to support them, maybe financially as well. But if you want to be in a position of leadership, apparently that's a problem because they don't affirm all lifestyles. Now, the good thing now is Brian Houston has been forced to resign only recently as well, this month. So just going to talk about this quickly. The Hillsong co-founder has resigned after allegations of misconduct. On Wednesday, March 24th, Brian Houston, the leader and co-founder of Hillsong, resigned following an internal investigation into allegations of misconduct. He'd been accused of misconduct before, albeit of a different kind. In August 2021, he was accused of covering up his father's crimes against minors. Criminal charges were brought against him in Australia, claiming that he knew his father was doing this. Houston denied the allegations at the time, telling the Washington Post, "I profess my innocence." The charges reportedly led him to step down as Hillsong's global pastor in January, and now he has been dismissed entirely, though the official reason has nothing to do with these charges. There were two specific instances of alleged misconduct that led to Houston's resignation, as described in a statement released by Hillsong on March 18th. The first took place a decade ago and involved inappropriate text messages from Pastor Brian to a member of staff staff, which subsequently resulted in the staff member resigning. At the time, Houston reportedly sought treatment for a dependency on sleep medication. The second incident occurred in 2019 when Houston, allegedly under the influence of anti-anxiety medication mixed with alcohol, stumbled into a woman's hotel room. So the guy who released those statements saying that he doesn't affirm a gay lifestyle and essentially believes that gay people can't be in positions of leadership at the Hillsong Church then does stuff like this. I wonder what the Bible would think. I'd wonder what Jesus would think of you sending inappropriate text messages to people, stumbling drunk into women's hotel rooms. That's very, very appropriate for someone like you. But I think this exposes like the hypocrisy of many of these Christian institutions. How many headlines have you read like that? It always happens. If they're not scamming people, they're doing really, really inappropriate things all the time. So of course it was right for Elliot Page to call out people like Chris Pratt and, you know, people like Justin Bieber should also be called out for attending this church while they both claim that they support LGBT rights and things like that, while at the same time attending an organization that historically, even though it's better than a lot of Christian churches, still does not view LGBT groups as equal to straight people. So I want to move away from the Chris Pratt drama right now, and obviously it's clear a lot of these celebrities attend these types of more like progressive Christian churches. But now I want to get on to Carl Lentz. He is probably like one of the most famous people. Someone described in an article I read, he's basically Tom Cruise from Magnolia, and I absolutely love that description. But basically, he had to resign from Hillsong, and he's like their rock star, and he became very influential because he was palling around with a lot of celebrities. He actually baptized Justin Bieber in a really, really bizarre story we're going to get into. But if you go on his profile, he hasn't posted since the end of 2020, which we're going to talk about a bit later, and the reasons why he has. But if you go on his profile, you see him sticking up for Black Lives Matter. He was going on these marches and stuff like that, and he has spoken extensively about these problems. I'm going to play you some clips from the Logan Paul podcast. And then, you see, here's a post of Justin Bieber. Love you, Justin Bieber. You're a loyal friend, a kind-hearted human being, a musical genius, and continue to grow into a fantastic husband. Congratulations to you and Hailey Bieber, and thanks for being a steadfast big bro to this little man. You're one of his heroes, and I think he has picked wisely. The future is bright. Another post about Justin Bieber from 2016. Excited to be speaking to our kingdom builders tonight at Hillsong, New York. Some of the most consistent and faithful people I've ever been around, posting about going on Oprah. And the Oprah post makes me laugh. I really enjoy my time with Oprah filming for her Super Soul Sunday show. She is truly a special woman and a culture changer. To come from absolute poverty in Mississippi and to reach the point where she became the first African-American multi-billionaire takes a passion and drive that is exceptional and tireless. What struck me most about her was her ease and kindness. She told me her key was waking up each day and thanking Jesus for loving me and thanking him for all he has done. That practice in that order is one to be copied. I'm grateful that she has opened up her platform to talk about Jesus unapologetically and without borders. It's literally impossible to say all the right things in interviews like this. I don't even remotely try to. My goal is to always say one thing that matters eternally, and by God's grace, we are able to at least do that. I always do find funny these American Christian types kind of celebrate wealth. I don't know why American Christians don't seem to remember that bit in the Bible where that rich man comes out to Jesus and asks, like, how do I get into the kingdom of heaven? And he says to him, you got to give away like all your wealth. And then the guy goes away sad because he's not going to do that, meaning he's not going to go to heaven. But then these Christian types either scam their followers to become insanely wealthy, or they're like this guy celebrating someone becoming a multi-billionaire. But the Justin Bieber relationship is super interesting. Here's a picture of them on TV together, like hugging. And GQ actually ran like this big puff piece story about him in 2015 when it happened. And it's like a really, really bizarre story. And it shows you how this guy kind of became so famous. Last year, Justin actually moved in with Carl Lentz and his family for a month and a half, and they worked through stuff. During that time, Carl says he saw tabloid reports about horrible things Justin was supposedly doing, while meanwhile Justin had been sitting in his kitchen the whole time. It's helpful to think of Justin Bieber here at his point in life as a biblical character at the very bottom of a Jobian well of his own making. But one day, according to Carl, Justin looked in the mirror and he was ravaged by feelings of loss. He got on his knees and cried and said, I want to know Jesus. And so together they prayed. Suddenly, Justin was overcome by the gospel and he said, baptize me. And Pastor Carl said, yes, Buckaroo, he really does call Bieber Buckaroo, and now you should too. Let's do this. Let's schedule a time. But Justin Bieber couldn't be Justin Bieber for 1 minute longer. No, I want to do it now. And Pastor Carl saw salvation in Justin's eyes and knew that his baptism couldn't come quick enough. They got in the car, and one of the church's body men drove him into one of the church's Suburbans to a Manhattan hotel where Hillsong rents the pool for baptisms. But when they got there, hundreds of people stood waiting. Something had tipped off the tabloids. Carl called a friend whose apartment complex has a pool, but when they arrived, dozens of people were waiting there too. So I called my boy, Lentz says. It was now 2 a.m. The Knicks had beaten the Miami Heat earlier that night. He knew Tyson Chandler lived in a fancy Upper West Side building with a pool. I said, bro, I'm in a jam here. I have JB with me. He wants to get baptized. He's like, done, easy. But they arrive and there's no access to the pool. It's too late. Then Tyson realized he might have another solution. He reminds Carl that he's 7 feet tall and that his bathtub was built to spec. Justin Bieber is slightly tinier than that. And so they go upstairs to Tyson's place, and Tyson's wife makes some food, lays down some towels, and Justin gets into the tub, and down Justin Bieber goes, and he comes out of the water, and he is reborn. So probably like one of the most American things I've ever heard. Like, this guy needs to have a baptism like it's out of a movie. He needs it like right away. Like, can't wait like a normal person. I can't imagine like for my confirmation, I'm like, I need to be confirmed now. I need to renew my baptismal vows. Please, someone find someone's swimming pool. But it's just crazy how well connected this guy was with so many celebrities. He can just ring up athletes and be like, oh yeah, can I use your bathtub to baptize Justin Bieber? And it's just clear this church has some celebrities. And why would he go out of his way to do this, Justin Bieber? You can say this man is an amazing Christian, so of course he would do that. Of course he would move heaven and earth to baptize Justin Bieber. Or is it good to keep celebrities in the fold because they promote your church? Now, Carl Lentz has actually been mired in a lot of controversy, but before we go into that, I said I would play some of the clips from Logan Paul. So I just want to make it clear how this guy works and like what he believes and how he can appeal to a lot of more, I guess, like liberal people and liberal celebrities. So let's have a look at a couple clips.
So our church is less about telling you what to do and trying to teach you how to think. And you got to come to these conclusions on your own. But normally you come into church, it's like 10 things you can't do. Can't drink, can't smoke, can't talk, like literally can't live. That's what it feels like.
Right.
And we'd rather, kind of reverse that and get people to know Jesus first. And then from there, you start realizing, cool, it's not that I can't do that. It's I don't want to do that.
What are the hard set rules that do exist in?
We are a church that just believes that the denomination aspect of things, it's less important than who we're talking about. The core tenets of our faith, it's to love people. Love people more than yourself. Put people first. Be kind. Be more thoughtful than you've ever been before. I think when you talk about rules, like Jesus said really clearly, if you want to do what I tell you to do, he took the 10 commandments, he made them 2. Love me and love your neighbor. Made it really simple. So all the rules and all the stuff that we put on religion, that's what people have done. But Jesus was the opposite of that. He said, if you really want to know what religion is, it's caring for the widows, helping out the orphans. And he was talking to religious people when he said that. That's what society does, though. We take a truth, we take the beauty of something, which could be this moment, and I do believe this racial climate moment could be ones that our kids look back on.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I pray that's what it is.
It will be. It will be.
So it's like, we can't be racist. Let's hire 2 black people and put them on our board.
Because we have to.
They're not upset that they're racist. They're upset they got caught. There's a big difference when you get hit with something where are you upset that you got caught, or are you upset that you're wrong? With racism right now, it's about 50-50. Some people are still as racist as they've ever been. They're just bummed that they got called out. And there's other people that are going, I got to reevaluate my whole life because I didn't realize it was as bad as it is.
So obviously using Jesus as your focal point to attract like the new woke crowd and younger people who may be dissatisfied with general organized religion is a smart strategy, because even like socialists will tell you, left-wing people will tell you, if the Jesus from the Bible was a real person, then this person was a good person, someone who cared about the poor, cared about outcasts, was against the wealthy, was against like empires and things like that, was against like this orthodoxy of Judaism, which really made these people outcasts. Like, he's a very good central figure. Also a very good central figure to get people in, because he's saying like, I don't care about your vices. We're not a church that like demonize people like you. We don't demonize like all atheists or all other religions. We just think we're on this journey and we think that this is the right path for you. And we want you to come worship at our church, which is like more modern. And Jesus is a good starting point for people, where a lot of the time what you have in America with evangelicals is they take the parts of the Old Testament they like, mix it with the parts of the New Testament they like as well. And they create this religion that is ultimately extremely exclusive and hateful turns loads and loads of people away, especially in the world we live in today. It's kind of like that kind of battle going on here as well, where you do have like evangelical Christians in America who might, you know, read the book more literally, and you have groups like Hillsong who will be like, oh, like Jesus was a hippie who loved everyone, come join our church. But at the end of the day, I'm still very cynical about things like this, because they are just wanting to get more recruits and indoctrinate more people into this religion. He also obviously talks about Black Lives Matter, and again, I probably believe this guy genuinely does care about this stuff, but he's saying it like a lot of Christian churches in America really don't care about these progressive politics, and we should do this. So again, very appealing to your younger millennials and your Gen Z people who do care about this stuff more than, I guess, your boomers and older people. But sadly, it all came crashing down for Carl Lentz when it was found that he actually had a mistress. I don't care so much about this part of it, but then we're going to get into why Hillsong is actually rife for other scandals. So after he got caught of this, he posted his last Instagram post, 145,000 likes. Our time at Hillsong has come to an end. This is a hard ending to what has been the most amazing, impacting, and special chapter of our lives. Leading this church has been an honor in every sense of the word, and it's impossible to articulate how much we have loved and will always love the amazing people in this church. When you accept the calling of being a pastor, you must live in such a way that honors the mandate, that honors the church, and that honors God. When that does not happen, a change needs to be made, and has been made in the case to ensure the standard is upheld. Thank you for your grace and kindness, especially in this season, as you have done so much to protect and love us through this. We, the Lentz family, don't know what this next chapter will look like, but we will walk in it together, very hopeful and grateful for the grace of God. So this is like the more concerning part. Page 6 reporting Hillsong Church rife with inappropriate sex, members claimed, and that's kind of like on brand for this scandal of this guy who preaches this Christianity, which has these morals and these values and stuff, having a mistress. So Hillsong staffers use the church like a seedy dating service, sleeping around with volunteers and asking them for lewd pictures, according to a group of volunteers who allegedly complained about the situation. The whistleblowers also claim the organization, which has been rocked by recent revelations that its former leader Carl Lentz had multiple affairs, was a breeding ground for unchecked abuse. Page 6 is told that in 2018, a group of volunteers, and one of them who's still a volunteer at this time, sent a letter to the Trendy Ministries leaders warning of what verified, widely circulated stories of abuse among staff and interns. We're told that one person employed by the church was asked to step down after it was revealed that, as the letter put, he had multiple inappropriate relationships with several female members and volunteers, and was verbally, emotionally, and according to one woman, physically abusive in his relationships with this woman. The group claimed in the letter that there are only vague or absent harassment policies at the church, and that the organization fosters a culture of silence and fear. Sounds like pretty much every other Christian church. The group added the environment is dangerous and a breeding ground for unchecked abuse. It accused one pastor of losing his temper, bullying, yelling, and outright screaming at other volunteers and leaders. When someone spoke to staff about the pastor, they were told that's just how they are, that's their personality. We're told the letter was sent to 7 of the top leaders of the US branch of the church, including Lentz. It's unclear how the church responded to the letter. So despite the progressive front, this is still organized religion, and despite them trying to paint themselves as like not traditional organized religion, it has a lot of the flaws of organised religion, mainly covering up abuse so it doesn't hurt your own image. Where have we heard that before? The church I was raised in, the Catholic Church, is absolutely infamous for this stuff. So again, this church is putting on like a more woke face, and maybe lots of its people do genuinely believe in better progressive politics than your traditional American Christian, does not make it a good place to be or a good place to work. And like any organization, religious or not, there is a cover up. There are cultures of silence, abuse. This happens absolutely everywhere. It's probably just more ironic because they try and paint themselves as something different while doing the exact same thing. Now, this video comes at a very good time because there's a recent documentary that is running right now. I don't know if all the episodes are out because I've been reading reviews that only talk about a couple, but I just want to get into it because it exposes more of how badly and horribly this church is actually run, despite the so-called moral face of it. A new docuseries premiering on Discovery Plus today, and this was on the March 24th, Hillsong, a mega church exposed, attempts to contextualize Lentz's meteoric rise and swift downfall within the toxic, financially driven culture of Hillsong Church. Much of Lentz undoing is captured in the series' second episode, and it makes for some of the most compelling minutes. For the most part, Lentz is described as being a militant enforcer of purity culture during his tenure at Wave. A former female member vaguely discusses feeling controlled and put in her place as a woman under his guidance. Another reveals a time that she was shamed by him for having premarital sex, prompting her to marry her boyfriend of only 3 months, and that goes completely against what he said to Logan Paul. We also see a gross clip of him sharing some advice he learned from his father about women being formed by their fathers and how husbands have to get in there early, basically the premise of John Mayer's Daughters. The clips of Lentz preaching both at Wave and Hillsong, which received significantly less circulations than the photos of his abs by non-churchgoers, are amusing to watch considering how ineloquent, aggressive and unwelcoming he is on stage. Despite how often he's framed as charming and magnetic throughout the doc, his stage presence resembles Tom Cruise in Magnolia, and I obviously said that earlier because I absolutely love that line. So more controversial stuff. The crux of Lentz's portion is an interview with the woman who would go on to have an affair with him, New York fashion designer Ranin Karim. Considering she's already detailed the relationship at length to the press, her appearance in the series doesn't necessarily have the bombshell element that producers are going for, even with the creepy video messages from Lentz that she shows on her phone. By the end of the series, we realise that Lentz's fallout is really just the appetizer to the rest of Hillsong's egregious controversies. So I guess the face of Hillsong that Lentz presented on Logan Paul's podcast was too good to be true. A seemingly woke Christian church that mainly focused on the good things of Jesus Christ, did not care about like the modern sins of things like premarital sex and other things like that, because they want to, have like a wide tent philosophy, get loads of people in to accept the message of Jesus Christ, rather than getting, I guess, bogged down in the hard right Christian dogma that is so common in American politics, and obviously since the 1980s, an absolutely huge political force as well, cultivated by Reagan, completely rode by Donald Trump to the presidency. But just like most Christian churches, it has absolutely awful problems with abuse, but this one takes on the form of more like a cult thing. You have a young, good-looking guy, friends with like insanely popular celebrities, baptised Justin Bieber, apparently to many people who don't think he's like Tom Cruise in Magnolia, very charismatic, but at the end of the day, controlling, manipulative. Egomaniac springs to mind as well, and a guy who is using his faith to become a celebrity in my mind. And it just seems like a big clout-chasing endeavour. Even celebrities going to this church in the first place just seems like a club they want to join, rather than what he did in the Logan Paul documentary, downplaying it as just like the nearest church for a lot of these celebrities. So Hillsong Church is doing nothing to change my atheist opinions, or even change my opinion that religion is largely a good thing. I definitely don't think it's largely a good thing, and even things that seem good, like Hillsong and their progressive message, ultimately feel extremely hollow when the whole culture of the church is how it is, and so many of its like leading members have been completely mired in scandal. And obviously, like most religious people, these guys are like really, really hypocritical. I mean, yeah, talking about Jesus Christ all the time, but then being a wealthy celebrity. Anyway, that is it for Hillsong Church. I've cancelled it now, so it doesn't exist anymore. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Please like the video. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram. Come join my community on my subreddit, and maybe support me on Patreon. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.